1 minute to assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled. There is a moment in your life when you have to stop asking, stop searching, stop waiting for permission, and stop looking outside of yourself for the sign that everything is about to change. That moment can begin right now, not tomorrow, not when circumstances improve, not when someone finally says what you want to hear, not when the money arrives, the relationship changes, the opportunity appears, or the problem disappears. Right now, you have 1 minute. Just 1 minute to step away from the noise of what has been and enter the quiet reality of what you choose to experience. 1 minute to release the old story. 1 minute to stop rehearsing disappointment. 1 minute to stop asking, what if it never happens? And begin asking a far more powerful question. What would I feel if it were already done? Because perhaps the greatest mistake you can make is believing that your desire must first appear in the physical world before you are allowed to feel the joy of having it. You have been taught to wait for evidence before you feel secure. Wait for the message before you feel loved. Wait for the money before you feel abundant. Wait for the opportunity before you feel successful. Wait for the circumstances to change before you give yourself permission to relax. But what if you reversed that process? What if, for just 1 minute, you stopped demanding proof from the outside world and allowed yourself to experience the inner feeling of fulfillment now? You do not have to force anything. You do not have to pretend that your life is perfect. You do not have to repeat thousands of words or struggle to convince yourself of something that feels impossible. You only have to become still enough to touch the feeling of the version of you who is no longer waiting, the version of you who has received the good news, the version of you who knows everything worked out, the version of you who can finally breathe, smile, relax, and say, "It is done." Can you feel the difference? For 1 minute, the old problems do not need your attention. The unanswered questions can wait. The doubts can wait. The fear can wait. The entire history of disappointment can wait outside the door. This is your moment to enter a new state of mind. Close your eyes if you can. Take a slow breath. And imagine that the thing you have been hoping for is no longer somewhere in the future. Imagine that the call has already come. The message has already arrived. The relationship is already healed. The opportunity is already yours. The desire that once kept you awake at night has become a natural part of your life. What would change inside you? Would your shoulders relax? Would your breathing become slower? Would you feel gratitude, relief, peace, love, confidence? Perhaps the feeling would not even be dramatic. Perhaps it would be something much quieter. The simple, natural knowing that there is nothing left to chase, because what you wanted is already yours in experience. That is the moment. Do not underestimate it simply because it lasts only 60 seconds. A minute of complete inner acceptance is more powerful than hours spent repeating the story of why something has not happened yet. One focused minute can interrupt an entire pattern of fear. 1 minute can remind you that you are capable of choosing what you give your attention to. 1 minute can become the beginning of a new mental habit. So for the next few moments, I want you to forget about how, forget about when, forget about the distance between where you are and where you want to be. You do not need to cross that distance right now. You only need to feel what it would be like if the distance no longer existed. Give yourself 1 minute. 1 minute to stop being the person who is waiting. 1 minute to become the person who has received. 1 minute to release the struggle. 1 minute to feel the wish fulfilled. And when that minute is over, do not rush back into the old story. Carry even a small trace of that feeling with you. Let it become familiar. Let it become natural. Return to it whenever your mind tries to pull you back into fear, because the most important shift may not happen when the world finally changes around you. It may happen the moment you change what feels real within you, and that moment begins now. You do not need an entire day to begin changing your inner state. You do not need to sit for hours trying to force your mind into perfection. You do not need to repeat the same words until you are exhausted, searching desperately for a sign that something has shifted. Sometimes, all you need is one conscious minute. 1 minute in which you decide that the old story will not receive your attention. 1 minute in which you stop reacting to what you see around you and begin choosing what you would rather experience within you. Think about how often a single minute can affect your entire day. One unexpected message can change your mood in seconds. One fearful thought can make your heart race. One beautiful memory can bring a smile to your face. If 1 minute of fear can influence your body and emotions, then 1 minute of consciously chosen fulfillment can also begin to influence the way you see yourself and your life. The question is not whether you have enough time. The question is whether, for just 60 seconds, you are willing to stop giving your power to the story you no longer want to continue. Right now, perhaps your mind is full of questions. When will it happen? How will it happen? Why has it not happened yet? What if nothing changes? What if I am disappointed again? But for 1 minute, you do not need to answer any of those questions. You can simply place them down. You can give yourself permission to be free from the struggle of figuring everything out. Take a breath, become still, and ask yourself, if my desire were already fulfilled, what would be different inside me right now? You may notice that the answer is not complicated. Perhaps you would feel relieved. Perhaps you would feel peaceful. Perhaps you would feel loved, secure, confident, grateful, or simply calm. Do not chase a dramatic emotional experience. You are not trying to manufacture excitement. You are simply allowing yourself to touch the natural feeling that would exist if there were nothing left to worry about. Imagine receiving the news you have been waiting for. Imagine hearing the words you wanted to hear. Imagine seeing the result you hoped for. Then, instead of immediately asking whether it is possible, remain with the feeling for just a little longer. Let your mind become familiar with the idea that it is safe to feel fulfilled now. This is important because so many people spend their lives postponing their emotional freedom. They tell themselves, I will relax when this happens. I will be happy when I get that. I will feel secure when they choose me. I will finally feel successful when I reach my goal. But this creates a life in which peace is always waiting somewhere in the future. For 1 minute, reverse the pattern. Give yourself the feeling first. Allow yourself to experience the inner result before you see every external detail. You are not ignoring your current circumstances. You are simply refusing to let them have complete authority over your inner world. Your circumstances may tell you one story, but your attention can begin telling another. And every time you consciously return to the feeling you prefer, you strengthen your ability to choose your state rather than automatically surrendering to fear. That is 1 minute matters. It is not about the clock. It is about the decision you make during that minute. For 60 seconds, you can stop identifying with the version of yourself who is waiting, struggling, doubting, and searching. For 60 seconds, you can become familiar with the version of yourself who feels that life has worked out. And when the minute ends, you do not have to abandon that feeling completely. Carry a small piece of it with you. Let the peace remain. Let the certainty linger. Then, whenever the old story returns, remember that you are only 1 minute away from choosing again. 1 minute away from closing your eyes, taking a breath, and returning to the feeling of fulfillment. You may not control every event around you, but you can practice choosing where your attention rests. And sometimes the greatest transformation does not begin with a massive action. Sometimes it begins with one quiet minute in which you finally stop asking the world to give you permission to feel complete, and you allow yourself to feel it now. There comes a point when constantly asking for what you desire can quietly keep you aware of the fact that you believe you do not have it. You ask, when is it coming? How will this happen? What do I need to do next? Is there a sign? Am I doing this correctly? And before you realize it, your entire attention becomes focused on the distance between where you are and where you want to be. Your desire may be important to you, but your constant search for evidence can keep your mind returning to the same message. It is not here yet. That is why there is such power in taking 1 minute and doing something completely different. Instead of asking for the experience, allow yourself to experience the feeling of it being fulfilled. Instead of standing mentally outside your desire and wondering how to reach it, step into the version of yourself who no longer feels separated from the outcome. For 1 minute, stop being the observer who is looking for proof and become the participant who is experiencing the result within. This does not mean denying reality or pretending that challenges do not exist. It means recognizing that your inner experience deserves your conscious attention. You have spent enough time rehearsing what you fear. You have repeated the conversations that upset you, imagined the outcomes you do not want, and asked questions that have no peaceful answer. Now, for just 60 seconds, give your imagination a new direction. Ask yourself a simple question. If this wish were already fulfilled, what would I naturally feel? Do not rush to answer with complicated words. Let the answer come through your body and your emotions. Maybe you would take a deep breath because the pressure is finally gone. Maybe you would smile because you received the news you wanted. Maybe you would feel a quiet sense of security because you no longer have to wonder whether things will work out. Maybe you would simply feel normal. That last feeling is especially important because fulfillment does not always feel like fireworks. Sometimes, when something has truly become natural to you, you stop obsessing over it. You no longer check for it every 5 minutes. You no longer need to convince yourself that it belongs in your life. You simply accept it. So, for 1 minute, practice acceptance. Imagine that the message has already arrived. The opportunity has already opened. The relationship has reached the harmony you desired. The goal has been accomplished. The answer has come. Then pause. Do not immediately return to the question, but how? Stay with the result. Let yourself feel the relief of no longer needing to solve every detail. This is where many people miss the point. They create a beautiful inner scene for a few seconds, but then immediately interrupt themselves with doubt. They say, "That felt good, but is it really possible?" They begin checking the outside world again, searching for confirmation that their inner experience is allowed. But your 1 minute is a sacred pause from that habit. During that minute, you do not need anyone's permission to feel loved. You do not need a bank balance to practice the feeling of abundance. You do not need a completed result before allowing yourself to experience gratitude. You do not need the entire path revealed before you can feel the peace of knowing that you will be okay. Give yourself the experience now. Let the feeling become more familiar than the fear. This does not require force. In fact, the harder you try to make yourself believe, the more resistance you may create. Instead, approach it gently. Close your eyes. Breathe slowly. Imagine one simple moment that would naturally occur after your desire is fulfilled. Perhaps someone congratulates you. Perhaps you read a message that makes you smile. Perhaps you look around your life and quietly realize that everything changed. Keep the scene short and simple. Then focus on the feeling it creates. Is it relief, gratitude, love, confidence, peace? Allow that feeling to fill your awareness, even if only for a few seconds at first. You are learning to stop postponing the emotional experience you desire. The beautiful thing is that you can return to this practice whenever you choose. You do not have to wait for the perfect environment. You can take 1 minute in the morning, 1 minute before sleep, or 1 minute in the middle of a difficult day. Every time your mind begins asking, "Where is it?" gently redirect yourself and say, "For this moment, I choose to experience it." Stop chasing the feeling through the outside hub world and begin allowing it within. Because when you stop endlessly asking whether your wish can be fulfilled and begin becoming familiar with the feeling of fulfillment itself, you create a powerful inner shift. And that shift can begin in the smallest space of time, one quiet, intentional, uninterrupted minute. The most powerful part of assuming your wish fulfilled is not the words you repeat, the length of time you spend imagining, or the number of techniques you try. The real shift happens when something changes within you, when, even for a brief moment, you stop feeling like the person who is desperately waiting and begin feeling like the person for whom the desire is already a natural part of life. This is the difference between wanting and experiencing. Wanting keeps your attention on what is missing. Fulfillment allows you to momentarily rest in the feeling that nothing is missing. And that feeling does not have to be dramatic. You do not need to force yourself into overwhelming excitement or pretend to be happier than you genuinely feel. The feeling of fulfillment may be quiet. It may be a deep breath after a long period of tension. It may be the gentle relief of realizing that everything worked out. It may be gratitude, confidence, security, love, peace, or simply the absence of the constant need to wonder. Imagine carrying a heavy bag for hours and then finally putting it down. The moment you release it, you may not jump and shout with excitement. You may simply feel lighter. You may breathe differently. Your body may relax. In the same way, the feeling of your wish fulfilled can be a release from mental effort. For 1 minute, you no longer need to figure everything out. You no longer need to solve every problem. You no longer need to chase a sign, analyze every detail, or search for proof that your desire is possible. You simply allow yourself to experience the emotional result as though the answer has already arrived. Ask yourself, if everything I desire in this moment were already settled, how would I feel? Would I still be checking? Would I still be panicking? Would I still be repeating the old story? Or would there be a quiet sense of relief inside me? This question can become your doorway. Close your eyes and imagine that the struggle is over. The answer has come, the door has opened, the relationship has become harmonious, the goal has been reached, the situation that once caused you worry is now behind you. Do not focus on every detail of how you got there. Go directly to the emotional destination. Feel the moment after the wish is fulfilled. Perhaps you hear someone say, "Congratulations." Perhaps you read the message you have been waiting for. Perhaps you are sitting peacefully in a place that represents the life you wanted. Choose one simple scene and allow yourself to enter it for a minute. Then pay attention not only to what you see, but to who you become in that moment. The fulfilled version of you thinks differently. That version of you does not wake up every morning asking whether it will happen. That version of you has a different relationship with uncertainty. There is more ease, more trust, and less desperation. Even if you cannot hold that state perfectly all day, touching it consciously matters because you are practicing a new inner experience. Your mind is accustomed to returning to familiar emotional patterns. If you have spent weeks, months, or years rehearsing fear, then fear may feel automatic. If you have repeatedly identified yourself as unlucky, unwanted, unsuccessful, or constantly disappointed, those ideas may seem natural simply because they are familiar. But familiarity can change. Every time you return to the feeling of fulfillment, you give your attention a new place to rest. You begin making peace, security, and satisfaction more familiar than the endless cycle of worry. This is why you should not judge your practice by whether you immediately feel something extraordinary. Sometimes the deepest shift is subtle. You may simply notice that your mind becomes quieter. You may stop checking for evidence as often. You may feel less urgency. You may catch yourself responding differently to situations that once triggered fear. These small changes matter because they show that your relationship with the old story is beginning to change. Do not force the feeling. Invite it. If imagining your greatest desire feels too intense, begin with the simplest aspect of fulfillment: relief. Tell yourself, for the next 60 seconds, I do not have to solve my entire life. I can simply feel that everything is okay. Breathe into that thought. Let your shoulders soften. Let the mind become still. Then gently add the feeling of gratitude, love, confidence, or peace that would naturally belong to the fulfilled version of you. Remember, you are not required to perform for anyone during this minute. There is nothing to prove. This is an intimate moment between you and your own consciousness. You are choosing for 1 minute to experience life from the end, rather than endlessly staring at the distance between where you are and where you want to be. And when that feeling appears even quietly, stay with it. Do not immediately question it. Do not ask whether you did it perfectly. Let it be enough. Because the purpose of this moment is not perfection. The purpose is to remember that you can choose a new inner state. And when you repeatedly return to the feeling of fulfillment, you stop making fear the only reality your mind knows. You begin becoming familiar with something else, the quiet, natural, powerful feeling that your wish is no longer something you are endlessly waiting for, but an experience you are willing to accept within yourself now. There will be moments when your outer circumstances seem to tell you a completely different story from the one you have chosen within. You may look at your current situation and see delays, unanswered questions, limitations, or evidence that appears to contradict what you desire. This is where your practice becomes meaningful. It is easy to feel confident when everything around you agrees with you, but the real opportunity comes when you learn to stop allowing every temporary appearance to dictate your inner state. For 1 minute, you can step away from what is visible and deliberately give your attention to what you choose to experience. This does not mean ignoring practical reality or refusing to take responsible action. It simply means recognizing that your present circumstances do not have to become the permanent definition of your future. Your mind has a remarkable ability to revisit the past and use it as evidence for what will happen next. If something did not work before, the mind may immediately say, it will fail again. If someone disappointed you, the mind may whisper, they will always disappoint you. If an opportunity disappeared, you may assume another opportunity will disappear too. But those conclusions are interpretations, not guarantees. For 1 minute, interrupt the pattern. Close your eyes and give yourself permission to experience a different possibility. Imagine that the outcome you desire has already become real. Do not spend the minute trying to figure out the bridge between now and then. Do not calculate every step. Do not ask who will change first or what exact event must happen. Simply enter the scene after everything has worked out. What would you see? What would you hear? What would you say to yourself? Most importantly, how would you feel? Perhaps you would feel calm because the uncertainty is gone. Perhaps you would feel grateful because something you once worried about is now settled. Perhaps you would feel deeply loved, successful, secure, or free. Let that feeling become the center of your attention. The outside world may still look exactly as it did a minute ago, but your relationship with it can begin to change. You are no longer allowing every temporary detail to determine your emotional identity. You are practicing becoming the person who can hold a chosen inner state even before circumstances visibly confirm it. This is especially important when you are tempted to check constantly for results. Checking can become another form of asking, is it here yet? Every time you check with anxiety, you may reinforce the feeling of waiting. Instead, when you notice the urge to check, pause and take your 1 minute. Breathe. Return to your chosen scene. Remember what it felt like when the wish was already fulfilled. Then return to your day without demanding immediate evidence. You can allow life to unfold without monitoring every second of it. Think about how different your behavior becomes when you genuinely believe something is possible. You walk differently. You speak differently. You make decisions differently. You stop treating every setback as a final verdict. You become less desperate because you are no longer making one moment responsible for your entire future. This is not about pretending that every outcome is guaranteed. It is about developing an inner orientation that is not controlled by every fluctuation outside of you. Your imagination becomes a place where you can rehearse the emotional reality you prefer. If you want love, experience the warmth of being cherished. If you want success, experience the satisfaction of knowing you accomplished something meaningful. If you want financial stability, experience the relief of knowing your needs are handled. If you want peace, experience the quietness of a mind that no longer expects disaster. Keep the scene simple. The shorter and more natural it feels, the easier it may be to enter it. You do not need a movie playing in your mind. One sentence, one image, one imagined touch, one expression on someone's face, or one simple moment can be enough to awaken the feeling. Then let the feeling breathe. Do not wrestle with it. Do not demand that your mind remain perfectly focused. If a distracting thought appears, gently return. You are training attention, not taking an examination. Most importantly, do not punish yourself when the outer world temporarily looks different. Your goal is not to become emotionally perfect. Your goal is to become more conscious of what you repeatedly accept as true about yourself and your life. When circumstances seem discouraging, remember your 1 minute doorway. Step inside. Experience the wish fulfilled. Feel the relief. Feel the peace. Feel the certainty that belongs to the version of you who has already reached the desired destination. Then carry that state back into your day. Let your actions come from greater clarity rather than panic. Let your thoughts become less reactive. Let your attention become more intentional. The world you see today may contain remnants of yesterday's thoughts, habits, and decisions, but you do not have to make yesterday your permanent identity. For 1 minute, choose again. For 1 minute, experience differently. And then allow that inner experience to become something familiar enough that the old story no longer feels like the only story available to you. 1 minute can become a doorway, but the real power comes from realizing that the doorway is always available to you. You are never permanently trapped in one fearful thought, one disappointing circumstance, or one old version of yourself. At any moment, you can pause and return to the feeling you choose. This is not about getting everything perfect from the very beginning. It is not about entering a beautiful state once and then never experiencing doubt again. You are human, and your mind may sometimes return to old habits. You may wake up feeling uncertain. You may see something that triggers fear. You may hear words that cause you to question yourself. You may find yourself wondering whether your desire will ever become a reality. But none of those moments have to define you. The moment you become aware that you have returned to the old story is also the moment you are given another opportunity to choose again. You do not need to panic because you had a negative thought. You do not need to believe that one moment of doubt has destroyed everything. Instead, take a breath and remember that you are only 1 minute away from returning to the state you prefer. Close your eyes if you can. Relax your body. Release the need to solve the entire situation. Then ask yourself, if my wish were fulfilled right now, who would I be in this moment? Not who would you become someday, but who would you be now? How would you breathe? How would you think? How would you respond to this situation if you were no longer living from fear? Perhaps you would feel calmer. Perhaps you would stop checking for reassurance. Perhaps you would speak to yourself with greater kindness. Perhaps you would stop treating every delay as proof that something has gone wrong. The fulfilled version of you may not have all the answers, but that version of you has a different relationship with uncertainty. There is less desperation and more inner stability. For 1 minute, practice becoming familiar with that version of yourself. You do not have to hold the feeling with perfect intensity. In fact, the more natural it becomes, the less effort it may require. Think about something in your life that you already accept as normal. You do not spend every waking hour convincing yourself that it exists. You simply know it. In the same way, the feeling of fulfillment can gradually become less like an emotional performance and more like a quiet acceptance. Each time you return to it, you are strengthening a new mental and emotional pattern. You are teaching yourself that fear does not have to be your automatic home. You can visit the old story without moving back into it. You can notice a doubtful thought without making it your identity. You can experience a difficult day without deciding that your entire future has been ruined. This is why repetition matters, not as a desperate attempt to force an outcome, but as a gentle return to the inner state you want to make more familiar. Imagine your mind as a path through a field. If you have walked the same path of worry every day for years, it may be easy to follow because it is deeply familiar. But the moment you begin choosing a different path, it may initially require more awareness. You have to consciously turn in another direction. The first few times may feel unfamiliar, yet every time you return to the new path, you make it easier to find again. Your 1 minute practice works in a similar way. Every time you pause and choose the feeling of relief instead of panic, peace instead of endless overthinking, confidence instead of helplessness, or fulfillment instead of constant waiting, you are practicing a different response. You are becoming more aware that your attention is valuable and that you do not have to give it automatically to every fearful thought that appears. This practice can happen anywhere. You can do it in the morning before the demands of the day begin. You can do it at night before you fall asleep. You can do it in the middle of a stressful conversation or after receiving disappointing news. You can even do it silently while sitting in a crowded room. No one needs to know that for 60 seconds, you have stepped away from the chaos and returned to the reality you choose to experience within. And every time you return, remember to be gentle with yourself. Do not say, I failed because I doubted. Do not turn this practice into another source of pressure. Simply recognize where your mind has gone and guide it back. Again and again, return to the feeling. Return to the peace. Return to the relief. Return to the quiet, knowing that, for this moment, you do not have to chase what you desire. You can experience the emotional fulfillment of it now. 1 minute may seem small, but a minute practiced repeatedly can become a powerful habit. And eventually, you may discover that the greatest change is not that you never face uncertainty again. The greatest change is that uncertainty no longer has the power to decide who you become. You learn that no matter what appears around you, you can pause, breathe, and return within. You can choose again, you can feel again. And in that simple, quiet, powerful minute, you remember that the state you return to most often can become the place from which you begin to live your life.